You've got to be dedicated to getting in the trenches if you want the thing that you want to do to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, a lot of people might see a photo booth or a 360 booth with a platform and a stage and think, it's easy, I can do that. If you want to do it well, you better be ready to work.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. Today we have an amazing guest in the building. But before we get into that, I want you to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you check out the merch at toostubborntofail.com. Today, I would say we talked about it a little bit before we got started. I met you when I was planning my wife's 40th birthday party. She wanted to do it big. So, at that point, I'm like, okay, it's a certain amount of things that need to be done. But the thing that was at the top of her list was a 360 photo booth, which I didn't really know much about. It was just starting to pop. Didn't know who to reach out to, but she had your name at the top of the list, reached out to you, I think maybe on Facebook initially. And then we did it. We did it up. We had a ball that
Oh
day.
my gosh. Like when we walked in, we always get there early to set up, kind of get some preliminary footage. And we looked at the scene. I said, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is going to be such a dope night.
Yeah, and it just
You
went.
did it big for her just the way she wanted to. It
Yeah.
was an awesome night.
And it felt like it was perfect where we had you, and we kind of had a little bit, I wouldn't call it podcasting, but it was kind of a recording on the other side of you guys, and it seemed like it just fit well. The colors fit well, the lighting was perfect. It was just a good night.
Everything
It really
just
was.
meshed together
Right.
in the most perfect way possible. Whenever we have an event going on, we always want to add to what's happening, not take it away. So sometimes we stop the booth, sometimes we maybe put one of our lights over your way to help guide and just illuminate everything perfectly with the guests. So yeah, we made a good little team that night.
Absolutely, absolutely. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Tiffany Spry, owner of Pose 360 Photo Booth. As I mentioned before, it's just I didn't really know where to go, and you just made that part seamless for me. All our interactions were professional, and just I have no complaints, and I am willing to. If anybody asks me for a 360 photo booth, Pose is at the top of that list.
Well, that makes me feel very good. Thank you. One of the things we pride ourselves on is customer satisfaction as well as quality,
Yeah.
right? Because at this point, I can make good videos. I can make good photos. I know I can do that.
Right.
But we need to make sure that the guest interaction is seamless and that you're happy every step of the way. With the party that you planned for Tanisha, you had 10,000 things on that list. We were one thing on that list,
Right.
but we didn't want you to have to worry about anything that we would do, bring, or have set up. So we take care of everything that we need to on our end every
Absolutely.
single time.
Absolutely.
That's the hope and the goal. So knock on some wood
Yeah.
somewhere, but that's what we've been working towards.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into some of the intricate parts of what makes Pose special, and the business itself. But before we do, I always like to dive in a little bit to what got you going, not just in business, but in life. Where are you from originally, and kind of speak to what childhood was like for you?
Okay. So originally, many years ago, from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
So I was born
I
and
thought
raised
I
in
heard
Brooklyn.
a little bit of Brooklyn.
Yeah, born and raised in Brooklyn. My mom, my younger sister, and myself moved to Sumter, South Carolina when I was 14.
Okay.
So I started high school from going from Brooklyn, New York to Sumter, South Carolina. Big change.
Yeah.
Definitely a big change. But change doesn't mean bad, it just means different. So I loved Sumter. I adopted well. I did 4 years at Sumter High, and then after. So from Rock Hill from Sumter to Rock Hill. Fast forward a few years later, then I lived in Columbia, South Carolina. So this is like a bit of a homecoming. I was
Nice.
in Columbia for 6 years, and now I'm in Charlotte.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So, in the process of, growing up, and let's fast forward a little bit to, is this the first business that you ever had?
Technically, yes. So
Yeah.
there was a period maybe around like pre-COVID, like 2020. No, COVID was 2020. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say a few years before that,
Mm-hmm.
I did baskets.
Okay.
So I've always had a creative
Right.
side, so I can put things together, I can make them look nice, and I can present them in a way that makes people happy.
Mm-hmm.
So did that for a few months, and it was great because
Mm-hmm.
at that point it was more of a hobby, fun type thing.
Right.
And as soon as I put it out there, people said, "Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
this looks great! How can I order for my mom? How can I order for my brother? I want to do something for my sister." So as soon as it became a business, I said, "Oh,
Yeah.
yes."
That changes everything.
Oh my goodness! So that was like my first official push into entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like a for real business, Pose 360
Okay.
is my baby, and it's my first official venture into entrepreneurship.
Okay. So, what made you go into the lane of um, the 360 photo booth?
Okay, so for anybody that watches Golden Girls, picture it, COVID 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So right around that time, this was in March of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
COVID just really getting started. And a few months into it, I was working from home.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was working from home, and I was coming up on my 40th birthday soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about, well, what do I want my next steps to be? What is there for me? What's something that I can do that's just my own?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, I was working with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. It is up until now,
Mm-hmm.
it's the only job I had in my adult life. I went
Really?
from college as an intern with Pfizer.
Yeah.
2 months after graduation, I started in my role as a pharmaceutical professional,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that for 17 years.
Wow.
I had no other job
Yeah.
in my adult life.
That is rare.
Right.
That is
So
super rare.
like things were going well,
Right.
but
Right.
it just started to feel a little stale.
Mm-hmm.
I was a wife
Mm-hmm.
and a mom, so I felt like a lot of the important things going on in my life belonged to other people
Mm-hmm.
and were connected to other things.
Right.
I was looking for something that I could do that was just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I could go at my own pace. Didn't matter what anybody else thought about it. So again, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
working from home, scrolling on Facebook through ads and everything else, and I kept seeing like 360 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it went from, oh, this looks fun, this looks cool, to I think this is something I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how the algorithms work. Once you look at something for more than 2 or
That's
3
it.
seconds,
That's it.
that's all you're going to see. So like no matter where I'm looking, I'm seeing 360 booths, parties and events. So I said, I'm going to try this.
Mm-hmm.
So for 4 months, I was in focus groups. I was talking to people that did this.
Mm-hmm.
I ordered equipment. My husband got to the point where he said, "What are you ordering? What are all these boxes coming to our doorstep every day?"
Yeah.
Our living room looked like a minefield because it was my studio.
Mm-hmm.
That was where I was going to try things out, test stuff out, see what works.
Mm-hmm.
And on June 17th, which was on 2021, it was my 39th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to saying happy birthday to myself, I launched Pose and I gifted myself with the 360 company.
Mm-hmm.
I started with one 360 booth. Now I have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have overhead equipment. I have different photo booths. And it went from a hobby in my living room to my full-time business.
Man, that is powerful. And shout out to your husband for the patience, because I know that in the inception phase, seeing all of that, and I don't know if he had an idea of the cost of those things, but it wasn't cheap.
Box after box after box.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I know it ain't free. You have not told anybody you do this shit, so where is this money coming from, and when is it gonna stop?
Absolutely. But that's powerful that well, one, I want to go back to the 17 years of corporate America. That is rare, especially nowadays where I work in career development, and they say that now the average person works 20 to 30 jobs throughout their lifetime, just switching and switching. So that's just a testament to you and the commitment to the job. And also, I'd like to commend you on finding yourself and something that you enjoy doing, because that's important.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to take a quick second just to talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit more. So we, again, I worked with Pfizer for 17
A
years.
long time.
About almost 2 years ago, no, about a year and a half ago, my entire division was laid off.
Whoa.
I've outlasted many a layoff and restructuring, over time, but my entire division was laid off. It does not typically happen this way,
Right.
But the day after we got laid off, we got picked up by a partner company, a company that we co-promoted.
Right.
So I went from Pfizer to a new gig. Some things changed in that new gig. I was working from home, no longer out in the field, and I also got a salary increase. So
nice.
But over the course of 4 months of doing that, so again, I'm working from home.
Right.
I made more money than I ever had made in my adult life at that point.
Right.
And I hated what I did.
Wow.
I woke up every day miserable when I logged on. And Troy, he could just see a change in me. And at that point, I was doing posts, but nights, weekends.
It was a hobby at that point.
Events there. Yeah. And I took the bull by the horns, and this is April. I'm turning 40 in June.
Right.
Thinking about, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Because this ain't it. I knew where I was not where I wanted to be. So I resigned. I stepped back from my corporate position. And I want to say this. I did not step back to do posts.
Right.
I stepped back just because I knew I wanted something different for the rest of my life. So I had to be bold enough and brave enough to accept the advice that I would give to other people. Do it. Go for it. See what's going to happen. If you don't like it, or if it's not working right, go back and do what you were doing before. But allow yourself the chance to pivot. Right. So when I stepped back from that position, it just allowed me time. It allowed me freedom, and I was able to pour into posts. And when that happened, so many opportunities just came my way.
Man.
And here we are.
Why do you think that it's so hard to take that step? And not necessarily for a business, but just for your sanity, for your happiness.
Because what happens if it doesn't work? We tend to rely so heavily on when things don't or won't go right. It's hard for us to see, well, what if they do? And I think that, and also, like with me keeping the same job as I did for so long, we grew up in an era where your parents told you to find a good job
and stay
with benefits that pay you some good money and stay there. I vividly remember my husband, he's had maybe three different jobs in his career. Same arena, kind of, but 3 different jobs. And I vividly remember when we told his dad and my mom about his new opportunity, they said, well, why are you leaving that good job?
Why are you leaving that good job?
Something that, for all intents and purposes, we're better, but we get so stuck on comfort and knowing what's right. It's hard to visualize something totally brand new that you don't know how it's going to go. So I think that's where we are.
Man, that is a new level of bravery that I wish more of us would take. It's not easy, especially in the beginning. How was that initially for you when you stepped out and realized that you had to take a step back from the job?
Initially, it was very exciting, very exciting, because we had some pretty good opportunities come our way first on, like that day that I told you that I launched. Happy birthday to me, by the way. We've got a company. Within the first hour of that going, I had somebody send me a direct message and said, hey, like, are you free on this date? We want to have that 360 booth thing. And I stared at it for a while. And I said, oh my gosh, I got to do it now. So it was exciting because we had a lot come our way. But one thing that I realized very early on, when you're a solopreneur, when it's just you, you do all the things. So it got to a point soon where from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, it was posts, marketing, emails, testing equipment, working with clients, trying to do things behind the scenes, getting ready for events, working with people, getting staff. And I said, wait a minute, did I resign I thought I was gonna take a break.
That's
I
the
thought I
thing.
was gonna find some shows on Netflix just to binge and pajamas and potato chips, just
Yeah.
kind of chilling. The exact opposite happened, and I went to bed exhausted so many nights.
Mhm.
But I've never felt as good about anything that I've done before, other than my husband and our child.
That's powerful. It is. It's a blessing to find something that truly gives you that joy, and doesn't really feel like it doesn't feel like work, which allows you to work till 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You basically got to you got to force yourself
You have to.
to step
You
back.
have to. And I'm working on that right now. I've been more intentional over the past 6 months
Hmm.
because it got to the point where I felt like I was spinning my wheels. You work all day doing all this stuff, the next day just to get up and do it again.
Hmm.
So I built a team. I've got some automations. I have time off where I'm not doing nothing related to work. I'm gonna
Priceless.
go have lunch. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna rest. And I want to pivot really quickly to talk about the importance of support.
Go ahead.
My family, my friends, they have supported me and cheered me on from day one. And my husband, I want to give him like the biggest shout out in the world because he saw
Mm.
that I was in a very unhappy place.
Right.
Right. And maybe unhappy isn't the best choice of words. I was very unfulfilled.
Mm.
Right. So he supported me. He said, if this is what you want to do it.
Mm.
Got you. Got you. So when you asked earlier about why do I think that a lot of people might not step out on faith
Mm.
or to venture into something new, I think support has
That's
a big part
huge.
of it.
That's
So if you've
huge.
got people in your corner that are going to cheer you on, that are going to make you get your behind up and go do what you want to do,
Mm.
invaluable. And it makes all the difference in the world.
It does. That is not to say that you can't do it by yourself, but a team, a support system makes it so much easier
It's
for
not
you.
that you can't do it by
Right.
yourself, but it's a whole lot
A
easier.
whole lot
It's a
easier.
whole lot easier if you got somebody in your corner. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to get into the business a little bit, for those who aren't quite familiar with the industry. Um, what what would you say sets Pose apart from other 360 companies?
And there are a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the times when I was seeing those ads for
Yeah.
360 booths,
Everybody else saw.
everybody else was. So like, this is the kind of joke that I say with my friends. Everybody and their mama got a 360 booth,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of operating it in a way that makes everybody feel like a star,
Mm-hmm.
and operating in a way that makes your former clients say, not only would I bring you back,
Mm-hmm.
but I recommend you to everybody.
Right.
That's what we do. So again, I mentioned I have a 17-year career in pharmaceutical sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to business management,
Right.
client management, territory management, organization, consistent follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring that in with the video aspects of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that one thing that has helped us tremendously, I have from the very beginning tried to align myself with people who do what I want to do, but they do it better than me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to grow. I want to talk to industry professionals who've been doing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I had been doing it from my living room for 3 months. That ain't nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk to the people who've done this, not as a hobby, but as a business. Who thought about it as a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a big place, a big arena that separates us from some other companies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to down anybody else.
Right. Right.
But what I know that we do, we operate this as a business,
Mm-hmm.
not something that I do every now and then for some extra bucks.
That makes all the difference, because it's the easy part is going and ordering off Amazon and putting this together, doing an event here and there. But when it becomes a day-to-day thing, the business side of it, which is just as important as customer service, is just as important as marketing, which are all full-time jobs, by the way. They're all equally important. And like you said, initially you are wearing all those hats. But that, I think, kind of separates those who are in it for real and those who are doing it just, because it's popular at the time.
And one thing that helps too, you have to sometimes kind of take your ego out of it. You know, pose, it's my baby, like
Right.
it's my thing.
Right.
But I had to realize that I am not good at all the things, and I would not be good at all the things. So I employ people who are good at the things that I'm not good at. Like we have a design team, we have somebody who works with our lighting and design. I have trusted industry friends that if something new is coming up, I don't just show up at your event and say, "Let me try it." I go with them to their events so I can learn to see what they do and how. That way, when I show up to Tanisha's birthday party, I've got all this stuff tried and true, and I know it's gonna work out well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we put in a lot of work behind. So our typical events are anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours.
Right.
So I might only be at your event for 4 hours, but trust, I've worked on it 10 hours already. And then even once it's done, we do post production and we try to keep up with people. So it's never about just what happens at the event.
Yeah, that I can.
That's why I'm so tired.
Yeah. I mean, but it's fulfilling though. and I can also just attest to what you put into it, being a customer. I can appreciate when you are used to a certain look, what good business looks like, what professionalism looks like, and you appreciate it because you know exactly what goes into that.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you again, because that was probably the highlight of the year for us. And it meant everything to, make that a special day for my wife.
Her gorgeous self.
Yeah. So, how did you initially go about marketing the business?
90% of everything that we did was on Facebook, Instagram. I'm still working with leveraging into LinkedIn, but now we do Google ads, we do sponsored posts, because Instagram, and for anybody thinking about launching a business or working with your business right now, Instagram and Facebook are great for people that are already connected with you. Right. So your true growth is going to come when you can go a little bit further.
Right.
TikTok, and I'm still learning this, but TikTok is amazing for hashtags.
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook too, but I think TikTok is better. If you have the content and the hashtags, people who don't know you can find you. And something that helped a lot, and my husband helped me with this, word of mouth. You can just put out a post and say, "Hey, here it is, look what we did." But instead of doing that, you want to put out a post from a past event and say, "Hey, would you like to have this at your party? Hook us up with somebody who's having a big event." Or, think about us for your employee engagement events or your Christmas parties. So if you get other people on board to help spread your message, testimonials are also really important. Right? Please fill out this Google review, because if you are happy with your videos and your pictures, please help us grow our community and invite other people to the Pose 360 family. So it started just with social media, but now we've extended because we want to continually grow our family. And you can't do that if you're only comfortable working with people who you already know.
Right.
You want more.
And I would imagine just using platforms that for people that you're already connected to, business isn't going to be that great, because people aren't having a party every weekend. I mean, they have stuff, but as far as when you introduce a 360 photo booth, that automatically, in my opinion, becomes like big, the event. Not that you don't do small events, but that kind of puts it on another level. So I would imagine that you do have to go above and beyond when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, we definitely do. When times are a little slow, especially like so summer is big,
right?
Especially now.
Everything's
right?
happening in summer.
Kind of quoting fingers post.
It's trickling down.
Like we're trying to get there, so like everybody's outside. Things happen and people are together again. People are socializing, but I can't always let the business come to me. We go to the business. So one thing that we do about once a week, I'll just look on Eventbrite. I will filter it for events in Charlotte. I'll look at the things going on, and I pitch. Like I contact event planners. We contact event organizers and we let them know what we do
Right.
and how we can help to elevate their event. So there are a lot of times when, I'm telling people what they need. That's how you grow a market. You might think you need me, but let me show you why you do.
I like that. I like that. With and I'm loving the growth, by the way. By the time that I was aware of you, I think you've already developed a certain look, a certain style, a certain professionalism. But what would you say are some challenges that come with the business?
Two. Okay, so I'm gonna name two.
Okay.
One is knowing where to cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
A really good friend of mine who also does the same thing. We become like sisters, buddies, friends, everything.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Well, when you were with Pfizer, you probably were working like 9 to 5.
Right.
So why are you working from sun up to sundown with this?"
Mm-hmm.
And the meme where the guy's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
When she said that, I'm like, "Wow,
She's
why
right.
are you working like totally around the clock? You're gonna burn yourself out.
Quick.
You're gonna burn out self. It's good to nobody."
Mm-hmm.
So the first challenge was just knowing when to cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
And the second challenge that I'm still working through
Mm-hmm.
is planning my week,
Mm-hmm.
like optimally managing my time. Because as it stands, this is what I do full time, right? So outside of my household and my kid, I get to set the course of my day.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be disciplined about what I say I want to work on and doing that. Because I'll have 10,000 things in my head and my silly self will think I'm going to get all 10,000 things done in one day. It is yet to happen.
Nope.
So at the start of the week, I try to block out a few hours each day for specific tasks that I know I want and need to get done. Because I got to a point where like I was working so hard and doing so much, but I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything.
Right.
Because instead of finishing 3 things, I would start and not stop 10.
Right.
So I realized that this ain't it. Like you have to have a more disciplined approach to what you're doing. I have not mastered it, but so far it has helped a lot. So those would be my 2 challenges.
I like that. And I always like to have, I guess, informational part during the conversation, just to kind of give, even though I do interview people who are successful in their lane, that it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
No, and the sunshine and rainbows are great,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're even greater when you have kind of been in the muddy storm for
Mm-hmm.
a while too. And this is another importance of surrounding yourself with people that do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So there was for a long time, when I was talking to my friends and my husband, I could have been talking Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what this stuff means.
Right.
But if you are entrenched in a community that do what you do, you don't have to talk with pretense to explain anything.
Right.
You can just go into it and they know exactly what you're talking about because they've had those struggles.
Right.
They've had those annoyances. They've had those aggravations. But they can also pat you on the back in a way that helps you pivot and get out of that. Get out of the muddy water. So again, the importance of not just family and friends, but surrounding yourselves with the people who do what you do or the people who do what you want to do.
Right.
Because y'all can talk the same language.
You're right about that, because I've definitely, or still am, a part of a few podcasting communities, and like you said, yeah. So like you said, it's just people that understand exactly what you're going through. Maybe having some of the same struggles as you, that can kind of coach you in what they did, or just provide, another understanding ear.
Yeah.
In a way, because your family, they're going to be there for you no matter what. But like you said, if you get down to a certain type of lighting or cameras and stuff like that, only people who are in the industry can kind of have those conversations with you.
And so, like with that, doing stuff with people in the industry, I've gone to a few conferences so far. I went to a conference in Vegas for photobooth professionals. It's the largest one that they have in the world. I went by myself, and it was going there just opened up my eyes. I was like a kid in a candy store. It helped me see even more what was possible.
That's big.
See what was possible. And I'm with another community. I've gone to Her name is Sharon Reed. She's a coach out of the Northeast. All things photo booth, all things video booth. So I attended her conference twice.
Mm-hmm.
Once in September in Atlanta a few years back,
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year in Virginia, and on this Sunday I fly out for the retreat in Dallas, and I'm a presenter.
Oh, that is huge.
I'm a presenter.
Congratulations.
The merging of how you can leverage
Mm-hmm.
social media to help increase your business platform with photo booths. So to go from somebody standing on the sidelines, like yay, cheering people on and working in it, now I get to go help people do the same things that I did.
Man.
And my heart is like, I'm so excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited and I'm ready.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is
Thank
one
you.
of those things that you probably, like you said, it wasn't intended. I mean, like you said, it started in your living room, and now you're on stage. So I mean, it's just the power. It speaks to the power of walking in your purpose, being intentional with whatever you choose to do in life, and seeing it through, because you never know what's on the other end, on the other side of that door until you walk through it. So that is huge. I'm excited for you. I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures.
Because they're coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can you tell us, and you may have already shared, can you tell us about a particularly memorable event that you did that kind of sticks out?
Yes. Last year, we were the sole 360 provider for the South Carolina State Fair.
Whoa.
12-day activation.
Ooh.
From 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day.
Man, how was that?
Long. It was long. It was hard. I partnered with another company for the business aspects behind the scene,
Right.
but my company ran the entire operation. And I'm going to get to the point soon where I can just totally and accurately document everything, because we're coming up on 1 year.
Right.
I had to staff. I had to buy new equipment. I had to do a layout. I had to move to Columbia, South Carolina for 14 days. So I lived at an extended stay off of the other side of 26.
Wow.
Because I was working with another company, these were cash transactions. As much as I trust my people, from the standpoint of just making sure that everything ran the way it was supposed to, I had to be there.
Yep.
So I was there
12,
10 a.m. to
12
11
days.
p.m. every day for 12 days. And it worked. We had a lot of obstacles that we had to figure out and work through. We got rained on one night, so I had to talk to somebody to get a tent, to get us a house.
You don't want to get that wet.
And at the end of every day, back at my hotel room, I had my little wagon with my equipment behind me. I was tired, but I was so excited for what was going to come the next day.
Yeah.
When we wrapped at 6:00 on that Sunday, I was the last video of the night, and I just was flooded with so many emotions because we did it.
That was huge.
We did it. Finishing and getting through something is not always about counting off your successes.
Right.
Sometimes the biggest success that you can have is finishing it. Is seeing it through. I won't even lie to you. Maybe 6 days into it, I cried. I talked to my husband on the phone. I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this. I don't know if I can do this. And he said, you did not put in all this work to come home early.
Support system.
So that to date, there will be more, but
absolutely.
To date, that's probably the one that sticks out in my mind the most, because that was a beast.
Yeah.
It was a beast.
12 days at the fair. So how does that work exactly? Did you get paid by the fair, or was it per person?
So this is not a business model that we typically have, but at the fair we did what was a pay per spin.
Okay.
Right. So anybody that wanted to get on the booth, they'd pay.
Okay.
And then we did that. That is not a typical model that we do, because from what we found, it's not profitable.
Right.
But being at the
fair,
State Fair, we had 420,000 people coming through the door.
Right.
We were like, oh, we gonna be booming, we gonna be popping. But what we found is that the vast majority of our business happened between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m.
Really?
When the lights came down. Because we have our lights, we have our fog, we have our TV. But in the daytime, you have people walking by and you know what our 360 stage looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stage with an arm on it. People didn't know what the hell
Right. Oh, you
we were
good? You
doing.
good? Yeah.
Right? They didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
So if I ever did something like that again,
Mm-hmm.
I'd make sure that we would only have to set up at the times that we were found were most profitable. Because
Mm.
again, I'm there at 10 a.m.,
Right.
but most of our business isn't starting until 6 p.m. that night.
Yeah. So it's a lot of idle time in there.
And the elements.
Yeah.
South Carolina. In October, it's October, but it's still hot.
It's still hot.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. I didn't realize that y'all covered that event. I can only imagine the 12 days and but like you said, it was an experience. Do you think you would do it again?
With that model, no.
No. Okay.
And I am business savvy enough to know
Mm-hmm.
that if a fair or any other event like that approaches it again, I'm going to explain to them the model that works best for us,
Right.
which will in turn work for them. But I'd never walk into that situation again. Mm-mm.
I can
So
see
guess
that.
what? I would not know that unless I done it.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I would not know it unless I did it.
Absolutely. So, what would you say are the most creative? What was the most creative or unexpected use of the photo booth for you, if any?
When we can put together special moments that are outside of just the videos captured,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if somebody's getting married or if it's a milestone birthday,
Mm-hmm.
I like to take special segments from everything that we do
Mm-hmm.
and put it together in a package that's just for that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that they can look back on, something that they can smile on and say, look at me.
Yeah.
Because there are so many important moments that we have that are shared with other people,
Mm-hmm.
which is a wonderful thing. But there are a lot of times you have to it's nice to have yourself celebrated.
Right.
So even if you don't do it, you know, we kind of say, oh, you know, I'm not selfish. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so prideful or conceited. I'm like, nah, get over all that. You dope. You
Right.
need to know you dope.
Right.
And if you won't tell yourself you're dope, let me put something together that shows you how awesome you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that stands out for us is just really being able to take it from the time when you have like literally hundreds of people at some events, bringing it down to what we can do for that one person.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and you did that. You did that for my wife. She definitely had a good time. The videos came out amazing. It just like I can't say it enough. It just was a good time. It was a great time, and I just appreciate the professionalism. I appreciate. I'm gonna say it throughout the whole interview. It's just it's an experience. If I can sum it up into one word, it's definitely an experience.
That's our goal, you know, because we want to make it worth it, right? And I'll dovetail just really quickly, especially when we talk to people who may not be as familiar about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our one thing our service is probably never going to be is the least expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have a price tag that accompanies our work that I know is worth it.
Right.
But a lot of times people might not realize that until we're on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like until we have the follow up, until they see the videos, until they see the reactions of their guests. So one of the things that we're working on is to help people understand our value up front.
Right.
Because you're not going to book if you don't see the value up front.
No.
So a lot of what we do helps people to see before we show up at that event what we can do for them.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, in my case, you came highly recommended, so I was already, I guess, abreast to the worth, and it was. I already knew that it was going to be, this was going to be a big event, so at some point I knew that it wasn't going to be cheap. Not to say that y'all were expensive, but it was. Being in the event, it was definitely worth it. It was definitely worth it, and just for it to be that special of an event, I felt like that's what took it over the top, honestly.
And I had celebrated my 40th birthday the year before.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever, like, no, not the year before, a few months before,
Yeah, it
which is
was.
November,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
November, and I was
November.
in June. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
she's turning 40. It's gonna be so awesome. Like those miles, all birthdays are important,
Right.
but milestones are like, get it, girl, get it,
Mm-hmm.
girl.
Mm-hmm. So this has been an amazing conversation so far, but we got to pay some bills. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Who for the moment gotta know the difference. I can't forget to mention, go get your money and stay out of other people. Go get your money and stay out of other people business.
Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. I am your host, Derrin Perkins, and today we have the lovely Tiffany Spry in the building, owner of Pose 360 Photo Booth. Just to continue the conversation, as I said before, I like to kind of teach a little bit in my episode. So, what would be some tips for someone who's seriously thinking about getting into the industry? What are some day one tips, maybe?
Google, right? Just kind of research the different types of booths, the different types of softwares. Now, this is probably something that most people think will come later, but I think a business plan should come first, because if you have a business plan, you can kind of outline in your mind some of the things that are important to you, some markets you would like to serve, the products you would like to offer. And if you keep your business plan in mind, then all the stuff that doesn't fit it, you can throw it out. Because, I mean, Google, right? There's a lot of information about a lot of things in a lot of different ways, and it can overwhelm you very quickly. So start with the business plan in mind. That way you can kind of acclimate yourself and have tunnel vision just to the things that are important to you. Secondarily, ask questions, but you got to do your own work. There are a lot of times in a lot of the forums that I'm in, people just want to like tell you how to do everything, and sometimes it can be frustrating. Like, you know, I'm in my living room at 3 o'clock in the morning, opening up boxes, trying to figure out why lights don't work. Now, that's not to say that I want other people to struggle, but there is so much knowledge to gain in figuring out how to do something on your own.
Yes.
Right. Start working on it. If you get stuck, ask people. Don't start from the front and not want to put in any work and then get mad or wonder why it's not happening for you. You got to be dedicated to getting in the trenches if you want the thing that you want to do to work. And I promise you, a lot of people might see a photo booth or a 360 booth with a platform and a stage and think, it's easy, I can do that. If you want to do it well, you better be ready to work.
Those were some great tips, and I agree, because it's the same thing with podcasting. It's just certain things you won't even value the information until you know how it applies. Because you can have the blueprint to do something exactly the way you do it, but you have to know the only way to figure out if it works for you is to go out there and try it.
Just to do it, right? Like with you. I'm sure there are a lot of people that say, well, I've listened to a podcast, so I can do a podcast.
Right.
Not saying that you can't, but it's not that easy.
Right.
It's not that easy. It's not.
Man. And to go along with the tips, is there anything that you would suggest not to do? Are there some no-nos that you would suggest people steer away from?
2 no's. First no, never show up to a client event not knowing your software or not knowing how to operate your equipment, because when you fail, you can screw up for your client.
Yeah.
And that's never what you want to do. And I can tell you a story about that later. Second thing, if you have a price structure or if you have a rate, don't accept less just so you can get business. Because it is much better, in my humble opinion, to make more and work less than to make less and work more. Set your price in a way that it works for you to spend your time away from your family and your home. Do not work for pennies, because if you work for pennies, guess what you're gonna get?
Pennies.
Pennies.
Yes, that's just as important as what to do, and I like to leave the audience with some of that as well. But let's touch on that story. What what happened with that exactly?
Okay, so I had a new piece of equipment, huge overhead booth, lovely, still 360
Right.
technology, but it captured it airily. And it didn't have a base, so it allowed for up to 10 people to be captured.
Oh.
Our stage can only hold like 3 to 4, sometimes 5 people. So festivals, large scale events, you can see why this wouldn't be ideal for getting people through. So I bought this equipment. Lovely. I'd seen it in action, but I'd never actually tested
Used
it myself. 100% listen to me when I tell you this is not the way to do it. I had this equipment in my garage for 9 months.
Ooh.
Never took it out, never put it together on my own because I was so busy doing other parts of the business. Got it booked for an event. Got to the event. Now, the night before, I put some of it together.
Right.
So I figured, next day, I've done the other parts before. We should be fine. We were not fine. We were not fine. I showed up to the event, and even though we'd given ourselves plenty of times, we could not put it together. And I kicked myself 117 times. I was so disappointed with myself, so frustrated, because I did what I would tell people to never do. But I just figured, it would work. Now, the good part is that I had my 360 booth with me for just in case.
Good.
But I left a lot of money on the table because I could not charge these people for something that I did not deliver.
Right.
And that was a moment in my career thus far where I learned, do not ever tell yourself you'll figure it out when you get there, when these people are expecting you to do what you told them that you would do. Right. So whether it's equipment, lights, sometimes even like accessories, make sure you know what you're doing before you show up on the spot to do it.
Man, that had to be a learning lesson for you.
I felt dumb.
Yeah.
Right. And I really tried not to talk down to myself or bad about myself, but I felt dumb because I did something really dumb and I owned it. I won't do it again.
Right.
But I owned it.
That was definitely a valuable lesson to anybody, and that just applies across the board, no matter what business you got going on. Just make sure, like you said, that your first time tinkering with it is not the day of the event or at the event. But like we said, some lessons have to be learned that way, because even though you knew that probably wasn't a good idea, now you really know that it's not a good idea. Now you know. So I know we talked about building a team and the importance of your team, but what qualities do you look for when you're hiring individuals to work for you?
Personality. You gotta have personality. You've got to have patience. You've got to have follow through. You've got to have professionalism, and you have to be a cheerleader. And I said those things fast because those are the things that I know helps to set our experience apart. Now, everybody doesn't have to do everything.
Right.
But those are the things that we need for our people to represent my company, to represent Pose, even if I'm not there, because I'm not always at events anymore.
Right.
I need every person that works with me to make whoever is on that booth feel like a star. From the time they walk to our little red carpet to the time they get in their video and walked away. That is what I need people to do every single time, every single spin, every single event, and we will not take anything less.
I like that. So how was that first event that you weren't physically there? I know that had to be tough.
It was. We have a great team. We have a great team.
Right.
They knew what to do. They knew how to do it. But they had to believe that they could do it without me.
Right.
And I had to believe that they could do it without me.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous, but I knew that it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just have to have the first moment, or the first time, to know that there are going to be more times.
Right.
So that first time, I'm like looking at my phone, checking, collect y'all good. And the software that I use, I can see what's happening at the event, like with the videos and the pictures, even if I'm not there.
Oh, okay.
So I looked at a few,
Yeah.
made sure they looked the way that they were supposed to. And after the third one, I said, they got it. And I put my phone away.
Man, that
I was at a separate event. I had something for another part of the business that I do. So I could not be present at both.
Yeah.
So when I put that phone away, I knew I could focus on where I was.
Man, that I can only imagine, like, the attention to detail that you put into the business, and like you said, that's your baby. So it had to be tough to, but it was also necessary.
Left, like, okay, like, we got it. You can go now.
Like your first time dropping your kid off at school.
That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. And so the first time you drop them off, like, you're looking, making sure they're okay, but they've already turned around doing what they're supposed to do. So that's how it was at the event. I'm standing at the door kind of looking, and they're getting people on and off the booth and cheering them on. Yeah. Growth.
Thank God for growth. So with everything, we talked about the business. We talked about a little bit of what you can expect from Pose. We even talked about, you expanding and working multiple events. But how do you handle unexpected things the day of? Do you have a checklist, or how do you go about handling that?
We have checklists, we have backups, we have extra equipment, but the biggest thing that we have is experience, right? Because we know what to do to pivot if something's not working correctly. Now, it might melt down behind the scenes sometimes, but one thing that we'll never let our guests see is chaos. Now, you have to ask for what you need. Sometimes you might need 10 or 15 minutes to pivot. Right? If I ever have to shut down an event for 15 minutes, I'm going to give you an extra hour. Done.
Right.
Like, no question about that. But if you have extras of what you need, and then also, this is so important. If a meltdown happens, you cannot panic. I've been there from experience, because if you panic, you can't think straight.
Right.
And a lot of times with the stuff that we do, your software, your equipment, if something happens, there is almost always a simple fix, but you can't think about it if your mind is running crazy.
Yeah.
So this is another time when having people in your corner in the industry can help. Like, I can text my girls or call my girls and say, hey, this is happening. It's never happened to me before. What do I do? And they can tell you.
Right.
Or they can help calm you down. So those are the things that work best. Experience, having backups, and keeping your cool.
I like that, because as we know, if it can go wrong, it will at some point. But like you said, through your experience, don't get it twisted. It will go wrong. It's just how you respond to that.
I've had my lights die. I've had my booth break. I've had my software lock up. I've had my GoPro die. I've had people fall into my equipment, and I might be paralyzed for a few seconds to figure out how to pivot, but you must pivot. You gotta finish.
Yes, I love that. I got one more before we go to our last break. What's your proudest moment that you've experienced on your journey as an entrepreneur with the 360 photo booth?
Proudest moment. I think my proudest moment stands out for our first Dîner en Blanc. We did Dîner en Blanc Charlotte. Huge event. Ton of people. It was myself and my husband. That's it.
Whoa.
5 hours. 4,500 people. One booth.
Ooh.
And there was a part, I know most of you guys know the song Swag Surfing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was towards the end of the night, and that song came on, Booth is going. And as it was rotating, I just happened to like look around the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
4,500 people,
Swag
all in
surfing.
white. Charlotte skyline in the background, swag surfing.
Oh man.
Right around my booth. And I was like, you know what? This feels pretty good.
Yeah.
That was 2-ish years ago, and we'll be back with them this year again for year number 3.
Nice.
On September 30th.
I like that. I just actually heard about that. Somebody did a review of them attending it. And I just found out that was a thing. So that's dope.
It's chic.
Yeah.
It's nice. So like being able to, you can always reflect later.
Right.
But sometimes if you are in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
like in the thick of it, you look around and like you see stuff and like people laughing, joking, and happy, and you're a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, you know what, this feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that moment for me.
Man, that was amazing. It's like I just feel I'm excited for you to experience these moments, because I mean they're huge moments. If anybody out there doesn't realize like the gravity of working at a state fair or the gravity of working at an event with thousands of people, that can be intimidating, especially if you've never done that before. So for you to not only land these contracts, but to carry them out in a way that you're invited back, like that's huge.
Yeah, like you can do it once.
Yeah.
Like they invite you back, you're like, okay, so yay,
Yep.
it went good enough for you once to come
That's
again.
the key. Loving the conversation so far, but we just got to pay a little more bills. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors with the Too Stubborn to Fail moment. Whether you're a passionate entrepreneur, a dedicated artist, or simply someone striving for greatness, Too Stubborn to Fail is here to ignite that fire within you. Visit toostubborntofail.com today and unlock a world of resilience, motivation, and unwavering determination. Let your spirit shine and show the world that you're too stubborn to fail. All right, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast, where we tell stories about overcoming adversity. I am your host, Derrin Perkins, and we have the lovely Tiffany Spry in the building, owner of Pose 360 photo booth. Tiffany, what I always like to do is wrap up the interviews with the Too Stubborn to Fail moment. But before we get to that, what comes to mind when you hear the words too stubborn to fail?
Do it anyway. If you get rejected, do it anyway. If you get a no, do it anyway. If you just are feeling like crap and it's not working that day, give yourself a few hours, shake it off, do it anyway. Most important things are going to come when you put some work in. So there will be a lot of times when you don't want to, maybe even you can't, but that doesn't mean stop. That means pause. So when I hear too stubborn to fail, you gotta override the bull crap and do it anyway.
I love that. With that in mind, we like to pivot into or segue into the too stubborn to fail moment, and that is a moment that you had to overcome adversity that sticks out the most to you. So what would that moment be for you?
So I don't have one moment. I kind of have like a series.
Okay.
I mentioned earlier, right? Like we pitch,
right.
We look at events coming in and around Charlotte, big activations, corporate stuff, things that I know we can make better from a corporate impression, and also from a guest engagement standpoint. So we put together like beautiful pitches, mock-ups. We find who we need to call. We find who we need to email. And each time I push send, I'm like, yes, they're going to call me back. Or they're going to email me back. And I never hear from these people. The event happens, and I see like maybe they went with another photo boother, or the event happens and nobody contacts us back. And I constantly try to figure out, well, what could we have said? What should we have said? We've spent 15 hours on this pitch, but I need to like throw it out and start again. That's not always the case. Sometimes people just not going to want you there.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like if people tell you no, or if they never reply to you at all, you just know you got to find somebody else. So I will not stop reaching out to companies. I will not stop trying to do client consults or discovery calls because that work is already done, right? I just have to reapply it to help get more business. But I cannot let people telling me no stop me, because if I don't work, I don't get paid.
Hey.
And that's a big difference from my corporate career.
Absolutely.
Not that I didn't work, but we had vacations,
Right,
we had
right.
PTO, like we had all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got my booth and my camera
That's
and my
it.
audio guest book and my overhead. If I don't work, I don't get paid. So I am more determined than ever to make sure that we have events on the books, because I like food. I like being able to pay my mortgage. I like being able to put gas in the car.
Yes, all great things.
Yeah, so we can't let people telling us no stop us from trying to get a yes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that moment today. I like to kind of use this time to give you the floor to promote the business, how people can find you if they want to book you. If you have anything coming up that you'd like to promote, the floor is yours.
Okay. So, owner, operator, Pose 360 Photo Booth, where our goal is to make every person feel like a star. You can find us on social, Instagram and TikTok at Pose360CLT. Our website is pose360photobooth.com. And in terms of some things we have coming up, I'm going to be at a conference this weekend talking about the importance of leveraging social media with your marketing. Soon, fingers crossed, we're going to work on an official platform for training and working with people who have photo booth businesses, helping them go from good to great. We've had a few customers so far. We've had a few people that we work with, and I see a need for this in a way that can help people put all the pieces together. A lot of times, you may have to figure out a lot of things by yourself, but you don't always have to. So if we can help people figure some stuff out before they have all the late nights and all the breakdowns, then that's what we want to do. But from now until then, just if you would like to have us at an event, you can reach out to us on social or via the website. We would love to pose with you.
Well, there you have it. Before we get out of here today, Tiffany, do you have any words of encouragement, closing remarks that you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah, this is not something specific to the photo booth business. This is something just specific to life. So what I want to encourage people to do is to get out of your own head. Get out of your own head. Don't tell yourself why it won't work. Tell yourself how you're going to celebrate when it does work. And I'm not saying that you won't have those negative thoughts. I'm not saying that you won't have those times of self-doubt. You can't live there. Because if you live there, that's where you're going to stay. And you have bigger and better places to be than stuck in your not good thoughts. There is greatness in all of us. You might not know what it looks like, but please allow yourself the chance to figure out what that greatness can look like for you.
Man, that was powerful. I appreciate you sharing that today.
Thank you for having me.
Man, it didn't even feel like an interview. It was just a conversation with a friend, and I'm glad that we found some time. Like we talked a little bit off camera. We've been talking about this for some time now, but it's good to finally get you in. But you know what? It happened when it was supposed to, I think. That's what it was. It happened when it was supposed to, and I can't wait to enjoy this and look at it. But we know where to find you. We've heard some amazing tips from you. This has been another amazing episode of the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast. I am your host, Derrin Perkins, and I had Tiffany Spry in the building today. We are tuning out.